Right, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Welcome back. Sam, how are you, mate?
Good, Joe. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. Ready to smack some drivers?
Yeah, we've got an exciting one today, haven't we?
We have, yeah. We're going down the, well, what's the right word? Is it budget? Is it value? Is there one more derogatory term than the other?
Yeah, I think value is the best way to put it.
Go with value. So we've got the Takomo Ignis D1 driver, and we're going to put it up against the Kirkland Signature driver, or Signature Adjustable, as they call it. Why are we doing it? Well, like I said, they're both sitting in that kind of value category. One's actually, I mean, if you look at the prices, you consider the Kirkland probably super value. So that's coming in at £199.99 or $219.99. Takomo's a little bit more at £299 and $319, but significantly like less than half price of some of the major OEMs. So we're definitely in that sort of, I was going to say budget again, but value category. More affordable. That's a nice way of putting it, Sam. So just to give you a little brief rundown on the tech. So Kirkland, there's not much to it. It's a multi-material composite crown is basically what they say on the website. There's some decent components in there. We've got a Project X even flow riptide shaft with a Lambkin Crossline 360 grip. Takomo put a bit more detail on the website about their tech story. It's more about variable face thickness. They've designed that to kind of maximise ball speed off different areas of the face, and 3 pretty hefty weights on the sole to drag the CG down to help you with that launch time, because we know when you impact above that CG location, you're going to get higher launch but lower spin is what we'd be looking for. Get into the looks in just a second. I've got a point on. No, go on, let's get into the looks now, and then I'm going to make my point on the hosels. Grab them both.
You can hold off?
I can hold off. I'm furious, but I can hold off. So.
Let's do it. Let's grab both of them.
So, again, we always do this from a retail perspective. I think it's pretty irrelevant with driver, but from a sole position, what's your thoughts between the two?
Both slightly different, slightly different vibes, I would say. Both are relatively simple. Like, there's not a whole lot going on. There's a few sharp lines here and there, but I think a lot of it is decals as opposed to actually anything producing any sort of aerodynamic response within this club.
Functional within that, is there?
We've got like a lot of drivers nowadays, we're seeing this kind of main channel or strip through the center of the sole there, but some branding. I'm not a massive fan of when brands chuck massive logos on, and Kirkland Signature slapped across the top of the driver there isn't something I particularly love. When it comes to the Takomo, you've got the Ignis D1 kind of logo, but I quite like it because you've got this, I guess it's like a satin black finish, and that's just subtly put in there in like a chrome look. So actually, unless it catches the light, you really don't actually see it.
Really see it, can you?
So I quite like that, and obviously we've got a bit more going on with the kind of tri-weight design on this sole. So yeah, slightly different.
Let's have a look down in the address position, see what you think there. I remember
this is where they differ.
Go on. They are different in that position, aren't they? And I was marginally. I mean, it's again totally subjective. This I preferred the Kirkland in that position. I like the head shape. I like the glossy. I like the glossy finish. Do you agree? Do you disagree?
Disagree, Joe.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that is purely because typically our natural ball flights are actually slightly different, aren't they? You tend to play a bit more of a fade. I'm a bit more of a drawer of the ball. So the way a driver sets up behind the ball is huge for both of us here. From the Kirkland standpoint, it sits quite shut when rested down at address. Not something I love as someone who looks to draw the ball. That to me looks like I'm going to start it left and it's going to go left.
Can I touch on that a minute? I've actually measured, as we always do now, we try and fully spec these out before we get going. And I've not even told you this, but you've got a good eye for this stuff. That sits, I mean, we've measured a Ping G440 LST last time round. It was sat as standard at nearly 5 degrees open.
Yeah.
That sits half a degree shut. So it's only marginally shut. But from what you're used to seeing, a lot of your drivers tend to sit open, whereas the Takomo, 1.5 degrees open. So we've got 2 degrees in face angle straight out the gate.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely noticeable, especially to my eye. Obviously very different kind of, I guess, cosmetics. You've got a gloss kind of carbon faded crown on the Kirkland, which I don't dislike. I think it looks quite nice, actually. It's very similar to like the Mizuno. Like the ST Max kind of head. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting off that. And then actually very different and probably a bit surprising in the Takomo. Very compact, pear-like kind of head with just that gloss crown. You do have a bit of carbon in there. So similar, I guess, again to what Ping have done with that carbon fly wrap. But in terms of then lie angles and sat down at address, I mean, to me, the Takomo, the toe looks like it's just sat miles up in the air.
Yeah, it's measured ridiculously upright.
Yeah.
Even in its standard setting, 62.
Okay.
Which is like crazy upright.
Yeah.
So I think they're trying to influence.
It looks that way.
Yeah, you can see it, can't you? I think they're obviously trying to influence more of a left bias with that, or not necessarily trying to cheat it, but you can actually go significantly more upright from there as well.
Yeah,
so you
exactly.
can probably get this driver to, I think it's like 65-degree lie angle I measured it at, which is
pretty crazy.
Which is, beefy in terms of that. That takes me on to a bit about the hosel. I want to have a little rant here. So the Kirkland hosel...
Safe space, Joe. Come on.
Yeah, it is a safe space. It's not going to be for a minute because I'm about to get angry. The Kirkland hosel, nice. It's got adjustability. It says on the website there's 4 adjustability points. That's actually wrong because there's actually slots in between those adjustability points.
Okay.
They're not measured.
Yep.
So I couldn't tell you exactly what they are. You would
handy.
It's not great, is it? So you would assume that it's halfway between if the next measurement is 1 minus 1, you'd expect between it to be half a degree.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they've not either labelled those or put those in, because you can get it into those settings. So
Okay.
that's a strange one for me for a start. A bit of attention to detail would have been good there. And the Takomo hosel is actually really clever. It's like a 2-cog system. You can start getting much more independence with lie angle and face angles and stuff like that if you can get the head back on.
Yeah, you said that you'd had a bit of trouble with doing so.
It is... Messed up is not the most eloquent.
I'm glad we went more polite with the way we've worded that. But
it's not great. I mean, I took it off. The first time I wanted to change some face angles, get it to loft I wanted. A dozen times it took me to get the head back on. The screw just would not line up.
Not what you need.
With the hosel, and I was like in real danger of cross-threading it on a number of occasions and basically ruining the hosel. If you try and force it through that, you'll cross-thread it and you won't get the head on at all. The second time I did it, same again, about a dozen times to get back on. That was disappointing.
Yeah, if you're playing tournament golf and you're running to the tee and you need to quickly change your driver settings because
I'd suggest if you run into the tee, Sam, you just tee off with what you got. But
you're late, but you might have just come from the range and you've seen a ball flight that you really didn't like.
You're running along and adjusted.
Yeah,
cool.
Maybe.
Yeah,
but you know, who knows? But it's not ideal if that is not them playing ball and you're struggling.
Yeah, so I was a little bit wary of that to start with, but it's in. I was going to mess around with it again today, but frankly, I didn't want to risk it because we wouldn't be able to film the video if I cross-threaded or couldn't get back in. So we've got to as close as we can in overall specs as well. So both of these drivers are playing 45.5 inches long, both at D2 for the Kirkland driver, D2.5 in terms of swing weight. Lofted, the Kirkland head was only at 10.5, so I've had to loft it down. And it actually measured a little bit higher. The 10.5 was actually 11, so we've got it down to 10 in the minus setting.
You saying that there, Joe, is actually quite interesting when we go back to address position, right? Because typically if we go down in loft on adjustable hosels, we tend to see the face actually open a touch. So the fact that that's still closed to neutral with the loft down, I can imagine it sits even further shut.
But then, for you, not great. For some people who want to see that face left, possibly absolutely ideal. Right? But yeah, I mean, again, this highlights, so the Takomo driver I've actually left in standard because it's standard at 9 degree, comes in at basically 10. It was 9.75, so we're like a degree out either way. The Kirkland driver, they're both measuring more lofted than they actually are, if you like. So they're within quarter of a degree at their usable loft. Now, we've mentioned the face angle. Component-wise, like I said, even flow in the Kirkland, nice quality components, lambkin grip. Ventus in the Takomo driver, it says on the website we've gone full Ventus. Here we go, not quite true. It's one of those watered down, made for a manufacturer versions of a Ventus. Doesn't have velo core technology, which is what the Ventus driver is.
It's a stock shaft. Tolerances maybe not as tight as Velocore.
It's a practice that a lot of these manufacturers use to be able to get a name component in the club. But they will do kind of a made-for manufacturer version thereof that isn't the full Shamonki in terms of technology.
People will see the graphics that maybe Rory or Scotty or Tommy might be using and
get that association, right? But
that's quite good to see, though. That I like the fact, even with the Riptide, we're talking kind of, it's a Costco Kirkland driver, sold in mass production. But I like the fact they haven't cheaped out because. You do see some, I couldn't name check right now, but you'll see some more affordable budget drivers, shall we say, and they just kind of put their own graphite shaft in.
Correct.
We've tested a few of these over the years, and they do perform differently. So I admire the fact they've actually gone,
I think
we're
sometimes
going to put a decent, respectable shaft and grip on it.
if you leave it to the experts, like the guys that are making these shafts, Fuji, whether it's that watered down version of Ventus, Project X making that Riptide, if you leave it to the people you know, I wouldn't start personally trying to develop shafts, so I like that too. So let's clip a couple away, Sam. So I've got the Kirkland driver loaded up for you.
Let's do that.
So I just want to get a couple of shots on both, just to get your initial impressions of kind of feel and sound. Then we'll go into slightly more extensive data collection. We'll come and have a look at the table, and we'll start to make some calls.
Oh, that is a very stiff one out of the gates.
There's a little Sam's stiff ones generally hit the line, everybody. So it's him moaning. Again, there is a slight difference in shafts here. So it's a 6.0 in the Riptide, so technically a stiff from Project X, whereas the Ventus is a 6X, but that's very little we could do about that. That's what's been sent through to us, and there's no point us kind of using a Unifit all-fit adapter or whatever here and chucking in a Velo Core Ventus Plus Black, because if you're shopping in this market, you're looking for value and you're not going to go and stick a $400 shaft in it.
I was going to say, I think if you put a Velocore or something in there, you're doubling the price of the club at least.
Correct.
By putting a
You loosening up
shaft
yet?
in. Yeah, we were getting there with that one. Should we go 3 with each?
Yeah, go on, bit of feedback. What are you thinking?
It's fairly loud.
Yeah, it's a decent
It's a good
decent
whack, isn't
pop,
it?
isn't it, acoustics?
I would say, I can't say it feels overly quick off the face.
Okay.
When we do all our comparison data, we're using Titleist Pro V1, so it's nothing to do with ball. We've kept the same ball as we always use. Yeah, didn't feel overly quick, maybe a touch spinny. But, part of that will come down to the fact that it's not a shaft that I would typically play. But like we said, we want to give an accurate review of these clubs with the components that they come with, because that's what people are purchasing here. I will say, feel-wise, was better than I expected.
Okay.
Felt fairly soft, not,
it's not
by
harsh.
no means spectacular.
It's not a harsh sensation though, is it?
No, not at all.
Using Titleist Pro V1s here, the standard Pro Vs rather than X's, as we always do in the studio.
That's
Lovely
pretty
one out
nice
the gates there, Sam, yeah. Slightly more muted acoustic, I would say, straight away, a little bit duller.
Yeah, what's actually interesting is, straight away, that actually felt a bit firmer.
Okay.
So it felt firmer, but sounded duller, if
okay.
that makes sense. So, good result.
Just looking at it, mate, that toe sticking up.
Yeah, you can see it from there, right?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I won't lie. I think maybe I'll be a bit... It will take me a while. It will be interesting once we've gathered some more data, but because that's sticking up, and like I said, I typically like to see the ball turn over a touch.
Yeah.
I'm maybe holding on a little to not overdraw this, so...
Got you.
Pretty good one there, though. Felt good.
If you like line balls and frozen ropes, everybody, you'll like that one.
Yeah.
Very solid, man.
Yeah, I'd say overall impressions, more of a soft, compressed feel off the Kirkland.
Yeah.
Slightly firmer off the Takomo, but I prefer the sound of the Takomo, a bit more muted than the, I guess, slightly louder sound of the Kirkland.
Cool, I'm going to put you to work now, Sam. We need to get some more data, so we're going to hit a boatload with each driver. You've got that Kirkland,
Takomo in my hand, yeah.
rather, and that's already loaded in. So you crack on.
Stick with this, shall we?
Get a few away with that, mate. Right, good stint, Sam. So we've got some data, boiled it down into the averages here. Yeah, pretty stark difference here in a few parameters. Well, one mainly, spin, but go from left to right.
Yeah.
Just mildly over a mile an hour difference in your speed between the clubs, so basically identical input. And basically identical ball speed, 158.2 off the Takomo, 158.6 off the Kirkland, and we were discussing that. That's slow for you, right?
Yeah.
You're not moving as quick as you normally do necessarily, but even we tested your GT3 earlier, you were moving at a similar speed and you were getting mid 160s out of it, weren't you?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I'd typically like to see my club speed a little more, but I'm an old man, I've hit a few balls and I'm slightly stiffer. But
you had a big lunch as well, didn't you?
Big lunch, exactly, yeah. But the point is, that was a different test. We've tested these at exactly the same time, so this is definitely a fair comparison.
Yeah.
And
But that is definitely slow for you.
Yeah,
like you cruise in mid 160s, pushing 170. So like that's a significant.
We're not seeing much ball speed out of that.
Yeah, some of the D2C drivers, the tech or lack thereof, I see it a lot in that speed category, and they are slower than what you'd be paying. I mean, it's you're paying a lot more for a bit more speed, but it's definitely present. Launch angle is exactly the same, 13.9. But this is where you start to see the big difference. The Takomo spinning at 2.4 on average for you, just a shade over.
Yeah, it's massive.
Kirkland, 900 revs more, 3,300 is just too much for you, and you can see that in the carry distance output there. So 263 yards basically from Dr. Kirkland, and 276 and a bit out of the Takomo drive, and that spin obviously creeps into the peak height there.
Yeah.
So 116, which is a bit more where you live, isn't it, in your current gamer?
Yeah, I'd say anywhere between 110 and 120 is pretty standard for me.
Whereas we're up to 130, we're up to kind of Rory height, but without Rory efficiency there.
Yeah.
In the Kirkland.
Slightly unfair comparison on Rory's half.
Let me just take you over to the dispersion chart, because I want to point out something here that I think is relevant for a lot of people. So you can see Kirkland in the red there, tighter left to right than the Takomo, and I think that's something for those of you, if you're toying up between these two drivers, this is something to factor in. Let's not forget, and it should be, you'll probably say down in the comments below, and rightly so, this isn't a driver or a setup necessarily aimed at someone like Sam. Sam's very quick, but Sam's who's testing these clubs today. So let's extrapolate that down and see what it means for you. If you're swinging at whatever 20 miles an hour or more, less than Sam, that spin of the Kirkland might actually be really beneficial in terms of helping the ball stay in the air. So what's going to work for Sam here, the Takomo drive is a lot more optimal. You can see it's got the capabilities to cope with a bit more than that Kirkland can. But as I said, a lot of people shopping in this market are either going to be beginners, potentially slower swing speed players. So there's huge merit to the idea that additional spin of Kirkland could be beneficial, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think you hear low spin, high launch thrown around a lot in the driver space, and yes, that typically equates to distance. We know that, but you've got to weigh up the reward of distance to accuracy, and that a lot of the time will come down to you as a golfer, how consistent you deliver the club, but also what courses and stuff you're playing on. If you're playing on parkland or soft courses and you don't face too much trouble with wind and rain and all the external variables, slightly higher spinning driver might not be the worst thing in the world. You're typically going to keep it a bit more on the planet. You won't get that kind of the knuckleballs that we see that just start offline and then don't have the spin to kind of stay on. They're just going to go. Vice versa, if you play on links courses, you play in windy conditions, and you benefit from maybe a bit more roll on the fairways to get your distance out there, then playing something with slightly lower spin and maybe a slightly wider golf course where you're not quite as pinned in with trees or rough, then you can afford to kind of get that faster, lower spinning ball flight. But definitely a case of personal preference, what courses you play on and what's probably just going to suit your game the best.
I think you've nailed it there. There's not necessarily a right or wrong here. You've got some of the tests we do, some of these head-to-heads, we pretty vehemently, that's just a better club all round.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's the case here. You've got the value proposition to weigh up. You're going to save £100, $100 in the Kirkland, and that might be a great decision for you if you need that little bit of spin to keep it online and keep the ball in the air.
What would you go for, Joe?
Well, for me, I'm a bit like you. I'm a higher speed player. I would have to go into the Kirkland into the Takomo to cope with that speed, unless I was to do something trickery wise with lofting down significantly and changing shafts and things like that. So I'd have to be Takomo. I've just got a sneaky feeling the more people shopping in this market might fit into that Kirkland driver and be able to save themselves some money.
Yep.
Let us know in the comments down below if you've tried either or both of these drivers. Are you seeing what Sam's seeing? Let us know what you think would suit your game. We'd love to hear about it. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.